We are now live with the one and only Bdell1014, and it's a pleasure to be with you again. So we're gonna ask you a list of questions. The last time we did interview was around in August during the event. So it's great to come across you again. So one of the first things we want to ask you is manifestation techniques is very, very big in the community. A lot of people want to know how to manifest. How you grow the channel? How do you get your bread up? How do you get wealth? How do you grow these things? So definitely give us some manifestation techniques, Vito.
One of the best ways to understand manifestation is to understand the doctrine of signatures of the Platonic solids, and they're basically the embodiment of geometrical shapes. So when you speak certain things into existence, you're supposed to encapsulate that thought inside of a geometrical shape, and you upload it into the neurological interface, and it hits the 34th ventricle of the brain, and that's when you manifest your thought forms into the ethers, into where they're able to materialize in physical form. So that's what that's all about. And also a form of manifestation is when you have the ability to use the octave vibration of tonal languages, which is ancient Proto-Semitic language, ancient Moabite language. All these languages are basically manifestation languages, because the vibrational frequency of tonal languages is when the tongue hits the roof of the mouth and it hits the ruffles, that sends a piezoelectrical frequency into the medulla oblongata, which is a esoteric word for the brain. So that's how you able to manipulate the Vedic simulation of reality that we living in, is by way of the activation of the tonal languages.
That's powerful. Well said. So you being a Libra sun, what's some things that you have learned? They say, how Libras are the sign of balance. Yeah. What's some things you have learned as a Libra? Like, what do you feel like? What's some of the traits of you being a Libra that you demonstrate and you notice that you give out to the planet?
Being a Libra means that you have to compartmentalize and do everything in increments, because too much of anything is bad for you. So everything, as far as like you balance out your work life, your home life, your research time, anything that's basically self-affirming, that's going to put you in alignment to solitude. So anytime that you have balance, you have order, and when you have order, that puts you in alignment with righteousness. So that's why everything in the universe moves on a logistical principle. Everything has structure. So when you have structure, that's going to put you in alignment to where you can connect with your higher self. So all these things, as far as like being a Libra, it's all about the scales of justice, which is the scales of Mayat, and the scales of Mayat is acclimated to her being Tahuti's wife, right? So that is basically the embodiment of the energetic frequency of the soul being in balance with the mind, the heart chakra in balance with the crown chakra, which coincides with the color spectrum of the aurora borealis, the violet light and the green light, the green emerald energy, which is gamma radiation. This is also applied to the fact that it's a form of manifestation. That's what the ether is. The ether is what helps you spark creation or spark destruction. But it's all based on your neurological faculties.
That's powerful. I also noticed like you talk a lot about karma, and Libra also rules karma. I see you speak a lot about like people getting their karma, and to be fair, and you push like Libra's a sign of fairness. Can you go on a little bit deeper into this?
When it comes to karma, when you look at the prefix of the word October, you get OCT, but that's another title for octagon. The octagon is an 8-sided energy. It's an 8-sided geometrical shape. So that applies to the number 8, which is a form of karmic retribution. So that's why a lot of the karma on the planet is being revitalized by the Libra energy in the 10th month, which is actually the 8th month. So everything that you see and taking place right now in the year of 2024, which is the karmic retribution or karmic divine alignment, is setting the tone and the frequency for the 9th year, which is 2025. That's the year of completion. So 2024, in my opinion, and based on my own independent research, this is the last good year that we're gonna have.
Wow. So you feel like this is the last good year that we're gonna have. So next year, what should we prepare for?
As far as the chosen ones, And what you're talking about, the galvanization of the 144,000 by way of the cosmic convergence. A lot of these calamities that's taking place on the planet, talking about Hurricane Milton, all these seismic zone activities, all this stuff is these are basically spiritual implications that's going to galvanize the chosen ones in the 144,000 to basically amalgamate together and build their own autonomous structures to revitalize the matriarch. Because patriarchy was basically the embodiment of the lunar cycle that controls everything on the material plane in third density. So now the planet is going from third density to fifth density, and once it reaches the apex of fifth density, that's when you have the gamma radiation amalgamates with the ionosphere that creates ionized particles, and that ionization is what collapses the photon-like spectrum of the subatomic energy of the three-dimensional world. So that's why I said like the lunar cycle is phasing out. So that's why when you look at the sun and the moon out at the same time during the daytime, that's cultivating the balancing of energies on the planet. That's what's happening. The planet is trying to go back into its original state. So balancement is actually 0 point energy. 0 point energy sees beyond the limitations of the dualistic paradox.
Yeah. Libra also rules partnerships. So how do you recommend getting over an ex or getting over people from the past? I'm pretty sure you have a very intelligent way of dealing with women.
When it comes to getting over everything, anything that you can't extract out of your brain is you basically become a slave to it. So that means that you got to understand the metaphysical art of detachment, meaning that you have the ability to dematerialize your emotional energy from the material plane, which is based upon people, places, and possessions. So a lot of times people, places, and possessions can cause discourse in our life to the point we're not in alignment with our true higher selves. So that's why sometimes when some people get out of a bad breakup, it basically activates this energy to where it puts a spark in them to where they have, tap into their higher potential. You ever seen a person when they get out of a relationship and then all of a sudden they're like, man, they back on track, they back on their stuff, they're going to the gym again, their money went up, their money went up, spiritual, economics went up, everything in their life went up because, they didn't have that distraction on their side. Because a lot of everything that's connected to the three-dimensional paradigm comprised of people, places, and possessions is a form of the Piscean age of illusion.
Well, that's powerful. Very, very powerful. So going forward, polygamy. I'm not sure if you're polygamous, but what's your true, honest viewpoint on polygamy? Do you feel like men abuse it? Do you feel like we should be going into polygamous, or do you feel like it's just something that should be left in the Egyptian age?
First thing first, when it comes to our generation, everything is built on sexual gratification. So polygamy was supposed to be used for nation building. Now, due to the fact that when you fast forward into modern day times in 2024, everything is being used in the form of sexual gratification, sexual degradation. And a lot of times that can basically destabilize the unity aspect in polygamy. So we shouldn't be looking at polygamy in a form of, I want to have threesomes and foursomes or whatever. You should be looking at it as a form of spiritual economics. Because the energy that you put into your tribe, the universe must bend to its will to where you reap the benefits of that in physical form. And this is where you build autonomous structures, where you have a sense of autonomy, building civilizations, building whole infrastructures. You build empires based on polygamy. But now, like I said, everything in westernized culture is based upon hedonistic activity. Now, polygamy is seen as something sexually gratifying.
Would you ever go polygamous?
Only way I would do polygamy if it's done the right way, meaning that the woman, she has to have a sense of urgency, a sense of purpose. just like the woman I'm with right now. It's not one of those things where you just gonna come into our cipher to where it's like just because you bored or whatever. We trying to manifest something here. We trying to build civilizations. That'll be the only way I tap into the energy of polygamy, meaning that she has to be in alignment with her true self and her true capabilities, and she she knows who she is intuitively.
Okay, for the guys and goddesses watching, a lot of people they are very picky about who their partner has been with before. Do you feel like that should be a focus before you get into a relationship? Should you ask the person like, oh, how many men you been with, how many girls you been with? You think that really matters, or you think we are powerful enough to spiritually cleanse, even if she's been in the streets or he's been in the streets? Does that really matter if we can cleanse it off? So kind of controversial. Well, partners matter.
No, I don't think it really matters, because if you study ancient history, or when you go all the way back into, ancient history and celebritism or whatever, some of the greatest whores on the planet were actually some of the greatest wives. Why? Because they came to terms about what they was doing and about who they were. Now, the women or the men who try to castigate the energy of them saying, oh, I'm not a hoe and I don't believe it, and they have like 100 bodies on them, those are the people who actually live like that for the rest of their lives. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of times there's nothing wrong with, a person having that many bodies. Now, you could look at it in the form of a spiritual exchange, because it's a form of energy transfer, but you can cleanse that energy, you know what I'm saying? But also at the same time, like, when you have a healthy form of ego, when I come across a woman and she got 100 bodies, I don't really, castigate, her for having 100 bodies, you know what I'm saying? I think my energy is enough to cleanse her. Just like Jesus, I saved her.
Hey, that's a powerful explanation. I've seen guys, they with women and their woman might have a lot of bodies, but they be like, hey, I'm gonna be the last body. They have a mindset like, hey, there's not a lot of real men out here, and the woman at the end of the day, if she's her, she's her. So it's like you gotta be the man that's gonna like be her last body. So that's definitely a good explanation. That's probably the best explanation I probably heard yet. Definitely. Is there anything you specifically want to touch on? Any topics that come to your mind?
Well, specifically, since we in the month of October, this is a time of harvesting. So this is the time you should be balancing out your energies, due to the fact that we live in a dualistic paradox. So balance your energies as much as possible, because a lot of people who are energy vampires, we in the month of October, so you got energy vampires, energy goblins, energy ghouls, all these ghosts and demons, these monitoring spirits. They're going to attach themselves to your frequency and try to extract your light. So during this time period, you must cultivate the balance of being, with the physical world and the spiritual world at the same time, to where you're not compromised.
Another question. So there's a lot of intellects, young pharaoh, divine insight. They promote locks, growing the locks out. Do you feel like a guy should grow his locks out, or do you feel like it just depends? Because some guys feel like you need the locks to ascend.
It depends on how you look at it, because when you look at a wave pattern, I got waves in my head. Wave patterns are basically cymatic frequencies. Those are cymatic frequencies that operates on fractions of light, and those fractions of light coincides with the genetical structure of the carbonated man and woman that has the neuromelanin, which is the brain and central nervous system melanin, and that extracts a form of a melanocyte, which is an intelligence molecule. So it doesn't matter. Non-ether is non-ether, whether you have locks or whether you have dreads or waves or whatever. Yeah. So it long as you got that non-ether popping and it has a certain geometrical pattern, and that's what it's all about. You know what I'm saying? When you look at some of the ancient hieroglyphics, some of them, they have wave patterns. They have 360 waves.
They don't really have locks as much.
Facts.
A lot of maintenance.
Yep. And also due to the fact that the sun was operating from it had a high intrinsic UV radiation light, and that UV radiation was pushing out gamma waves that basically subjugated, because a lot of the ancient Egyptians, they didn't have beards. it kind of subjugated the energy. So
Yeah.
electrical energy gets rid of hair.
Okay.
A lot of the ancient Egyptians, most of them were even bald head.
Wow. That's very, very powerful. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and close it up. Bdell, I appreciate you so much for this interview. You know what I'm saying? Keep doing your thing. You know, you're gonna hit 100K soon. You know, it definitely is. Yeah, it's definitely a journey. But you know, you definitely one of the best influencers in the community. You know what I'm saying? And you stay to yourself. And yeah, I appreciate it, man. So.
Peace. Yeah, I appreciate that. You can find me on YouTube, Bdell1014, Bdell1014, or on Instagram, Bdell1014. Peace. I say.